Today on the Coach's Wife podcast, we have a very special guest. He was a dual sport athlete in high school, and he got to take that to the next level competing at Aurora University in both basketball and baseball. Today, he is an assistant coach at Livonia Franklin High School in Michigan. He is our first guest of the Coach's Wife podcast season 2. We'd like to welcome Coach Ty Jaquez to the Coach's Wife podcast.
With the world of coaching evolving and the carousel always changing, we're going to sit down with some coaches and we're going to figure out what they coach, how they coach, and most importantly, why they got into this profession. My name is Casey Wilkinson, and I am your host of the Coach's Wife podcast.
That was my Coach's Wife.
Alrighty, welcome back to the Coach's Wife podcast. We have a special guest here today. We have Mr. Ty Jaquez, Mr. Ty Jaquez, joining us today. He's from a different sport. He's going to be our first baseball guy on this podcast. So, Ty, I want to say thank you and appreciate you joining the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to get to going, and I've heard a couple of your other podcasts, and I'm excited to be a part of it. So, thank you.
Yeah, of course, man. I appreciate you jumping on, and so I'm not going to dive too much into him. I'm going to let him kind of dive into himself and where he's currently coaching at. But Ty currently lives in Michigan right now. He's from the Southwest. So, Ty, go ahead and take it away. Kind of let us know who you are and where you're coaching at, and of course, the sports that you're coaching.
Yeah, so like Kason said, my name's Ty Jaquez. I coach right now at Livonia Franklin High School. So I'm an assistant varsity coach there right now. This will be my fourth year there. And so the previous 3 years I was doing like outfield mainly and then working with our hitters. And then this year I think I'm going to be transitioning into like more of the infield and then still working with the hitters there. So I'm excited about that. And then, what kind of got me into that was just coaching travel baseball. And so I coach at the Oakland Reds baseball club, and I've been there since 2019. Yep, oh, cool. 2019 when I first moved to Michigan. And right now I usually was doing 2 teams, but this is the first year that I'm doing only 1 team because just had a baby girl. And so
Yep. Congratulations, by the way.
Yep. Thank you. And so, right now it's just I'm running the strength conditioning program too for our fall and winter at the high school. And so it's like 2 days a week, nothing crazy. But that's what I'm doing right now.
Heck yeah, man. Are you going to have what do they used to call it? Winter camp? You're going to have that week of hell for all your kids?
Oh, dude, no. Oh my God. Funny story about that is, I was a basketball guy, so I didn't have to.
Oh, you're right. You never had to do that.
I never had to do that. Satchel and I, man, we played basketball. We're like, oh, no, sorry, we're in basketball season. We can't do it.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot it. Yeah, I did that 1 year, and I was like, I'm going to play winter sport.
I remember
that was
doing
a tough one.
I did 1 day of it, and I was like, man, I don't know if I could do 2 weeks of this.
Yeah.
I just told coach, I'm like, hey, I got basketball, man. I'm sorry.
Hey, you know what? You got other obligations. You're good. I know you're a basketball guy too. You were pretty damn good at that. You're a little spot up shooter. What you play in basketball? Were you a 2? Were you a 1? No, Troy was a 1, huh? So you were like a 2 or 3.
I was probably like 2 or 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I gotcha. Well, I obviously we can talk quite a bit. If you guys don't know, me and Ty went to the same high school. We both went to the Piedra Vista down here in the Southwest of New Mexico. So we have a lot of the same people we know, but so we don't have to dive crazy into everything. But Ty, so before you got into your coaching journey, right? I guess before we get into talking about your coaching journey, I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about you as the person. So we obviously know you grew up here in Farmington. If you guys didn't know, we've already kind of spoiled it. But when did you get involved in, I guess, kind of all sports, but because you're coaching baseball, when did you kind of get involved in baseball? What age? And when did that kind of develop for you?
Shoot, man. I want to say I got into baseball like as early as you could possibly do, probably like 5 or 6, somewhere right around there. Before that, I was in the gym all the time because my mom was at the time she was coaching. She was coaching at Hermosa. She's doing volleyball there, basketball there, and then she ended up getting a gig at Piedra Vista when they first opened up. And so, yeah, I was in the gym for like since I can remember. So did basketball and then did baseball on top of that. And then what else? I did 1 year of football, and it was it wasn't terrible. But man, dude, it was just like 5 days of conditioning, and I'm just like, this is not for me.
I feel that.
But yeah, did that, and then ended up playing 2 sports in high school. So yeah.
Baseball and basketball, right?
Baseball and basketball, yeah. I think the biggest thing was like my mom played college sports, so that kind of helped too. So she was always in the gym, and that's how I kind of got the bug, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I did not know that. What she play? She played volleyball, I'm assuming?
She was volleyball, and then she was a big softball player in high school too. So, but volleyball in college, yeah.
Okay, so I did not know that. That's really cool. Okay. So obviously, I know you said that your mom was a college athlete and all that stuff. Do you think that do you think that some of those things that she learned and what she had to go through kind of instilled in you? I know I'm going to actually ask you this in a few minutes about like your next level that you did. I know you played in college, so you can dive into that. But do you think that some of those things that she did to get her to that level kind of was instilled in you, in middle school and high school to help you get to that next level, or just as a man in general?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, she was always pushing me to work hard, and like obviously I wasn't the best, and I knew that. But she always told me like a big thing. She was like, somebody's always practicing over you, right? Somebody's always it's always going to be working. So I kind of had that stuck in my head, and so like when I can remember in middle school, like a dude who's just like outside all the time, thinking, okay, somebody's getting better than me, right? Somebody's getting better than me. But I think that was the biggest thing that she kind of instilled. And then another thing was just believing in yourself, right? She was always telling me, like, especially with baseball, like baseball is just a mental grind. And she like,
sure.
You go 0-3, but one day, and then, 3 for 3 the next. And it's like ups and downs, but just believing in yourself. Yeah. And just pushing yourself and, forgetting the bad and trying to move on. I think that was the biggest thing that she kind of instilled in me.
For sure. Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, there's always this debate on, is baseball the toughest sport, professionally and all that stuff. And, I'm not going to be here to argue that, but, I appreciate that she told you that because, you bat 300 in the MLB, you're a Hall of Famer, so that's, swing, you strike out 7 times and you hit 3 and you're there. So I could definitely appreciate that. So kind of, obviously, I should say, kind of feeding off of that, whenever you were playing sports in high school and, all your coaches and everything like that, when did you realize that you could play at the next level? When did, what was your recruiting process like? Actually, let's not get to the recruiting process yet. When did you know that you could play at the next level or get to that next level with your sport?
Well, it's a loaded question. Well, especially with the recruiting process, but I guess with basketball, right? The thing that got me is like, there's something in the future that I could possibly be doing. It was like, I got a little bit of varsity reps as a freshman, right? Mm-hmm. I got played a lot of started on JV, got moved up for the varsity games. Didn't play a lot, right? We had a lot of good seniors during that time and juniors and sophomores in front of me. And, but yeah, I think that kind of gave me a little bit of the or itch to, like there's a future. Right. And so, got into my sophomore year, and then, same thing. I don't know if I started as my sophomore year, or I got a lot of minutes.
Yeah, you played more as a sophomore, yeah, because I was with Izzy and Shorty and all those guys, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely didn't start that because the freaking Isaiah and Dom and all those guys. That was a really good team. But got some minutes. Yep, played quite a bit. Split time, so that was cool. And then I saw some of those guys. They had opportunities to go, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm a couple years younger than these guys, and I think I can. If I put in the work, I can find a place and, go compete. So, yeah, I think it was just kind of eye opening as a freshman, I would say, because I really didn't. I knew I was good, right, but I didn't think I was, get picked up on varsity good. So
Yeah.
I think that gave me a lot of confidence moving forward.
Right. So when it comes, I mean, I definitely understand when you get that. It's obviously all confidence boost, and when you're a young guy, confidence, just like a quarterback in the NFL as a rookie, it's all about confidence. So when it came to like your recruiting process, where did you played sports at the next level, correct? Just so everybody knows, you did participate.
Yeah, I did. I did 1 year of basketball, and then I did 4 years of baseball. So my freshman year, I tried to do both, and it was just too much. Couldn't keep up with the grades. Yeah,
I understand that. So where did you go? Where was your college that you participated at?
Aurora University. It was like 45 minutes outside Chicago. It was like a Division III school.
Okay. So with your recruiting process, I should say, how did your recruiting process go? I mean, what was that process like for you, for not only that school but any other school you might have got? I know you did baseball and basketball and stuff in school, but was there any schools that kind of were really coming after you in high school? And then based off of that, how did that whole process turn out for you?
To be honest, dude, I started the recruiting process very, 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 very late. I want to say I got signed up for NCSA oh my gosh, probably the summer going into my senior year, I want to say. Super late.
Okay, yeah.
And, did the process, did all the interviews, right? Did all my highlights from junior year, did some highlights. No, it was all highlights from my junior year. Posted on there, emailed coaches back and forth. But that website or service, that did a lot of good. You're able to shoot out your videos to a lot of coaches. A lot of coaches are able to see it, whether it's NAIA, D2, D1, whatever.
Right.
A lot of views on that. So I ended up getting in contact with Coach Robinson. He was the assistant coach recruiter at Aurora for basketball, and just talking to him and then talking to a few other coaches, but he seemed to give me a little bit more attention than some of the other guys. And then I ended up committing and, going there. And then the funny thing was probably a month after I made that decision to go there and play basketball, I got a call from the baseball coach there. Oh my God, I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Stahl. And he was like, "Hey, I noticed that you play basketball and baseball in high school. Would you be interested in trying out for the baseball team?" And at that point, this was like in the middle of baseball season, right before, probably right after basketball ended.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm just thinking, yeah, I'll try out. I mean, what do I got to lose, right? I'm already playing basketball there, so I'm going there for basketball. So what do I got to lose? And I ended up going there, and I did the fall baseball. I did the fall basketball, which was a lot, but ended up making the team after the fall. And then, after I did basketball that year, I was like, all right. I said, it is a kind of a reality check there, right?
Right.
You go from playing small town basketball in New Mexico to going
Chicago.
to 45 minutes outside Chicago, and you're like, what did I get myself into?
Right.
So at that point, I realized that I had a better chance of getting actual minutes and innings and playing time for baseball than I did playing basketball. So so I ended up stepping away from basketball and then just kind of focused on baseball the last 3 years. So.
Gotcha. Okay. And so I did not know all that, but that's really, really cool. So you're a dual sport athlete. And I know you said that grades kind of, obviously I know there's a lot of things that played a factor, right? Minutes and actually getting an opportunity to play and all that stuff. But do you think that do you think that benefited you being a dual sport athlete in the long term as a adult, realizing how your focus can and cannot work? So, sometimes we get overstimulated with just life, right? But being a dual sport athlete in college, being a single sport athlete in college is a full-time job. I don't care
Yeah.
what level you're at. I mean, it's full time, no matter what it is. So when you get, two sports on it, right? A lot of people want to do dual sport, and people don't realize that it's really hard to do that. And then, it's a lot on who you are as a person. So do you think that benefited you in the long haul now that you're out of college and everything like that to like know your limits? Or do you think that, do you have any regrets quitting or stopping playing basketball?
I don't know if I have, that I thought about that a lot, right? After I'm like, get to my senior year, I'm like seeing these guys that stayed with it. And there was only like a couple guys, right? Cause they over recruited every year for basketball. And I'm like, these guys are playing. And I'm like, if I really wanted to, put in the time, it would have been a lot. I would have had to put in a lot of work, a lot more work than I would have had to do for baseball. Right. And, do I regret stepping away? No. Do I miss the heck out of competing at a high level for basketball? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
But yeah, no, I think, doing both made me realize that I'm not Superman. I can't do everything. Right. When I say my grade slipped, like I've never had like below a 3.5, and my first semester of college was like, I think I had like a 2.7 or something. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. I'm like,
yeah, stressful.
Yeah, dude. I'm like, dude, this has never happened before. And so, yeah, so that was a big factor. But the other thing was like, I just realized like I'm a little outgunned here, right? These guys are like 6'5", can run, can dunk, can dribble, right?
Yeah.
I'm over here. I can shoot, right? But I can't run and dunk. So.
Yeah. You kind of knew where you sat when you saw your teammates.
Yeah. And that was at the beginning. That was a little gut punch. But once I got through the fall with baseball, I met some of the baseball guys. Hung out with them. It was much better. It was, I definitely don't regret it at all, because I would have had three baseball teammates in my wedding. So
yeah,
definitely.
No, yeah. And it's interesting that you bring that up, because I know this is kind of off topic, but like I told you, you never know where these conversations are going to go. But I have a serious question for you, being a baseball guy. So like, I wrestled in college. So for me, granted, like I only wrestled that, short term in high school. So it's not like I played, I wrestled my whole life. But when you're wrestling and you want to go compete at the next level, you might be a 17, 18-year-old like me. I was 17 going as a freshman, right? So 17, 18-year-old guy, and you're wrestling against dudes who are, maybe 23. This is pre-COVID, so of course they're not 6-year seniors, but, they're 23, 22 to 24, who've been doing it for 10, 12, 15 years, but not even on talent level, just being a man strength. That's hard for a lot of people to realize when, not everybody has that challenge, but there's a lot of people who it's a challenge for them to transition to college in a really physical sport, right? Like even like football, I know there's some dudes who it takes a few years to really get that mental aspect of the game, but also like to slow down, but also physically be able to compete. But as a baseball guy, and I'm not taking anything away, but like especially where we are, we're as a baseball guy, is it easier, do you think, for you to transition into college just because you are like there were dudes here, right? There was that lefty from Bayfield who was hitting 94 as a lefty. You're seeing high speed, really good. See some pretty good junk. You're seeing some really good fastballs. You're seeing some really good athletes play. And I know you did travel ball, so I know you traveled across wherever you went. So do you think it might have been easier, quote unquote, for a baseball guy to kind of be able to jump into that college role versus maybe a more true physical sport?
Yes. Yeah, I would agree. I think for me, and I think for a lot of the guys that came out of Farmington who went to go play baseball, I think a lot of those guys grew up with really good coaches throughout their childhood. Like I look back at it, man, and I had I was very, very fortunate. Like I had Coach Derek Martin. Like I had him like I want to say 12U or 13U year, like 2 years. He ended up coaching at Farmington for the longest time, and then he was, he helped Coach Magaha at PV. But I had him. I had Coach Baker, who also coached high school baseball. He was the JV coach there. Like I had Coach Baker for like I want to say 3 or 4 years, man. Like,
By the way, Coach Baker threw a curveball at me with that helmet on and don't piece me in batting practice and BP. I don't know if you were there for that, but that was a fun day. He's like, now
oh, that's
everybody
funny.
has to wear helmets.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, yeah, he was a good coach though.
Yeah. And then, had some dad coaches who were really good. They instilled a lot of good habits. But yeah, man, I mean, I think at the time when we were there, right, Farmington was like Farmington and Piedra Vista were baseball schools, right? And, big rivalry. Farmington High has so much history there of being a powerhouse baseball team. But just the coaches there, man, there was a lot of experience, and there was a lot of, there's so much good baseball around that time. And so I think that played a huge role in me having a chance to compete at that level. Right. And it was Division III, don't get me wrong, but like, I remember in the fall getting there, and I'm seeing some of these guys pitch, and I'm like, I'm like, oh shit, I got a chance. Right. I'm like, I can hit this guy. I can hit that guy. Okay. That guy's pretty good, but I think I could compete against him. Right. But it's like, some of the tournaments we went to, right, granted, we got our butts kicked in some of them, but we saw really good arms. Right. Oh my God, I can't remember the guy's name. He was an Albuquerque Academy guy, but I think my junior year, I think I got the golden sombrero against him, man. He was like 88 to 90. I struck out 4 times, but like, dude, I'm seeing like that. And then I go compete at the Division III, and I'm seeing mid 80s. I'm like, dude, I've seen this before. Like, I feel confident. Like, I don't feel like I'm out of the loop and, I can't go compete here from a talent or even physical standpoint. Right. Like, I was like, dude, I feel like I can compete, and, I got a shot at this. So.
Right. No, I think that's and I think that's something that really played a factor. And I know not every state in the country is a baseball state, but being New Mexico, it's a baseball state. So in our time, right? Like I think it was our junior year. I think it was sophomore year with like. It might have been even freshman year. All like that entire state championship team went and played at the next level, damn near.
Yeah.
Like, every starter played. And then junior year, right, with like Shiloh and all those guys, like a lot of those guys most of that team went and played at college. But you guys really got to see a lot of really good arms. So, I had to ask that question because, for when it came to me. But I think that if you're a good baseball guy in high school, it really kind of helps you get to that next level, like you said, or I should say transition to that next level. If you're going from high 80s, low 90s, those arms you're seeing to mid 80s, it's like, I can at least compete. You don't have to really worry about some things that you might have to worry about somewhere else.
And by compete, I mean, fouling a couple of pitches off and then, strike 3.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, man,
but that's what I'm saying though. Like you're competing though. You're not going 0 for 3, right? Or I should say you're not going. He's not dicing you up with a perfect inning, or
that guy that you were talking about, that lefty from Bayfield, Clay Miller.
Clay Miller, there we go.
Freaking dog, man.
Yeah, he was. I was like, damn, he's a lefty tossing that. That's crazy. Yeah, I could never remember his name. Thank you for bringing that up. I just remember him. I couldn't remember his name. Yeah, okay.
I remember he went to go play at the next level, and I don't remember where he played at, but I know he had a couple injuries. I think he had Tommy John, and but yeah, man, he chalked. That guy was disgusting.
He was a nasty dude to play against for sure. So that kind of rolls into the next question I have for you, man. Is obviously you've spent time at you've had 2 different sports you did in high school and 2 different sports you did in college. But was there ever a coach in your life who made an impact? Let me reword that. Has there ever been a coach who made an impact on your life? And if so, who was he or she and why?
Oh, dude, I've had a lot, man. Like I told you, man, I had a lot of really good coaches, but I look back at it now, right? I'm coaching. I've been coaching since, my sophomore year of college. But like I would have never got to this point, especially like baseball wise, if I didn't have Coach Martin. Like I don't know how young I was. I think it was 12U transitioning into 13U. Had this rough summer, right? Just didn't hit the way that I used to, right? I mean, like now that I'm coaching, you go from 11U to 12U. Like 11U, you're killing it, and 12U, all of a sudden, you're like, oh shit, these guys are throwing harder, right? and you don't have nearly the year that you had the previous year, that killed me. And so like, I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit baseball.
Yeah.
And I told my mom, like, Mom, I don't want to play anymore. I was hurt. I was defeated. And she was like, nope, you're not quitting. You're not quitting. And she's like, you know what? If you really want to quit, she's like, you need to call Coach Martin and tell him that you want to quit. I was like, oh my God, Mom. I was like, you're going to make me do this? And so, yeah, she made me call Coach Martin, and he ended up talking me out of quitting baseball with that conversation. So that was a big impact. I want to say Coach Shock was basketball coach at PV. He was there my first 3 years. He had a huge impact, right? Just, coach, father figure, whatever it is. Just, kind of the lessons he instilled on me as far as like discipline, doing the right things, right? Doing the right things, especially when nobody's watching, right? When you're by yourself, what kind of person are you?
Built that integrity.
Yeah. And then, Coach Magaha, right? I mean, Coach Magaha, like, dude, that, fuck, I wish I could coach with him, man. There was an opportunity for me to coach with him if he got this certain job. And I wanted to so bad. Like, I wanted to jump into it, but it would have required me to move all the way back to New Mexico and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But man, dude, that guy knows how to freaking get his guys to run through a brick. And like, it is like, yeah, man, he just, it's, I remember playing for him and it was his way or the highway, right? But his way freaking worked, man. Like, his way was like, yeah, like he
was successful.
Yeah, man. He just, it's, especially with him, right? I mean, it's like, if you don't do it the way that you're supposed to do it, you're not going to do it, right? He's going to find somebody else who's going to do it for you. So it's like, you're doing it, right? You're going to do it his way. But his way was like, it was the baseball way, right? I mean, you did what you had to do, and, and it wasn't for you. It was like, it was for your team. And that was the biggest thing that he preached, is like whatever kind of role you have, it's not about you. It's about, doing that role to the best of your ability and helping your team win. And I think that was huge for me, right? Because granted, dude, I didn't play varsity baseball till my senior year, right? I mean, granted, we were stacked every single year prior to that. But yeah, I mean, that really helped. That lesson really helped me, kind of go to the next level and help me get through seasons, right? Because I didn't have a lot of success early on. Don't get me wrong, right? I was grinding for at bats and stuff like that. But yeah, biggest thing is just playing for your team. More we, less I, right? Less me, and yeah, man, I had a lot of really good coaches that instilled a lot of good things early on. That I kind of try to pass on the baton to these younger guys.
Yeah.
So.
And I can say that too, man. Being at that age too, like, I'm not gonna lie, like I in high school and stuff, me and Magaha did butt heads, but I that as who he was as a person, I can look back and I could even say thank you to him, because he taught me a lot of things. And looking back, I'm like, dude, he just wanted the best for you. And if he was on your head, and the way that he coached is like, was successful ways. And I just at that time I was like, man, no, I can't. Like, I didn't like him, but I can sit here and say, I'm like, dude, he was a damn good coach, and he taught a lot of values in that short time, and I can definitely understand why you chose Magaha, because he was a damn good coach. And still to this day, like, I know I don't know if he's still at La Cueva, but they're winning.
No, he's at Carlsbad now.
Oh, he's at Carlsbad. Okay.
Yeah, I think this is his second. This will be the start of his second year. But I think the biggest thing for him, like, man, dude, he was not afraid to challenge you. And I mean, challenge you in front of the whole team, right?
Yeah.
To the point where you're like, dude, I want to be in tears right now, man. It's like, I'm embarrassed. Like, but like, yeah, dude, I remember one time we were doing situations, and I was playing first base, and they were hitting pop flies in between infield and outfield, and he hit one that was in between pitcher, second, and me, and it was definitely my ball, and I just didn't call it for some reason. Just didn't go after it. I think Jeremy called me off on it, and it was a tough play for him. Like, he's diving, right, catches it. He just reams me, dude. Reams me. That is your ball. That is your ball. Like if you can't go and do that, then you get off the field right now. Like, he said it in a much more
Yeah. Old school
aggressive
coach
way.
way.
But
Yeah.
but like, dude, I just remember him reading, and I'm like, holy crap, man. It's like, all
Yeah.
right, I gotta get my shit together. But yeah, dude, he just and it didn't matter if you were the freaking 19th guy on the roster, right? Like he's gonna challenge every single one of the guys. He's gonna
Yep.
the expectations are the same for every single guy. It's the same for the number one guy. It's the same for the 19th guy on the
Bottom
roster.
guy.
Yeah, and I
Yep.
think that I think that was the biggest part why I loved playing for him, because it was like, it was all business,
no.
man.
And that was the thing too, is at that time I was like, whatever my mental state was, it was like I've never had that type of coach really in my life before, so it was hard for me. But then I went to wrestling, and Coach Stout was the same way. He didn't care what you were, who you were, if you were a C team guy or if you're a varsity starter, like you got the same thing. And I don't know if it's because it was a year later, or if it was just because like it's wrestling, so I had to be that way. But I think even though me and Magal had butted heads, maybe it was just me, but it helped. That prepared me for the future. That prepared me for what I needed to do on that level. So regardless of what it is, I can look back and like, dude, Magaha was a damn good coach, and he obviously made everybody a better baseball player. Everybody could hit, everybody could pitch. If you're a pitcher, you know how to pitch. If whatever position you played, he had the right coaches, he had the right schemes. He knew small ball. He knew, we're swinging for the fence, and he knew situations very well. So I can understand. All of those coaches you mentioned were I've had all of them at some point in life, or I didn't have Coach Shock, but he was always he always had a positive attitude. Walking the hallways, I know every time I'd see him, he's like, "You gonna come out for basketball, blah blah blah," and whatever. But like every time I saw him, he was always a positive dude. He always had that good energy around him, and so did everybody else you mentioned. But yeah, okay, cool. I'm glad that you have all those coaches are solid dudes. That's for sure. Remember Coach Conway?
Yeah,
Coach Conway, hell yeah, he was my guy. Yeah, he was Coach Conway. Yeah, he was a good dude too. But I just didn't know if you remembered him or not. But yeah, Coach Larry Conway.
Yes, he was. He did my driver's license testing.
Same. Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
he was my guy too. Okay, so now that we've kind of got an idea of some of your coaches that made an impact on you, let's kind of dive into you as a coach. So I know you mentioned earlier you've been coaching since like sophomore year of college, but how long have you been coaching, and what was your timeline? So like, where did you start, and how did you get to where you're at now?
So let's see, 2013 we graduated. I want to say 2015, 2016 was the first year that I coached. And so that was with a travel organization in Illinois called the Naperville Renegades. I helped with I coached with this guy named Jeff Rowan. Okay, he played in like the Rays, Tampa Bay Rays organization. He was a catcher. But I was like his assistant for our 16, 17 U seasons. So that's where I really kind of got my foot in the door. And then after I coached with him, he went on to go do his own thing in Florida. And then that's whenever I was like the first time head coach for a 12U and then our 15U team. So I did both of those teams for the first time as a head coach. And that 12U team, we went to Cooperstown, had a lot of fun. That 15U team was we were okay. We had some dudes. A lot of those guys went on to move. I want to say probably like at the top of my head, I think, Trevor Morris. Oh my goodness. We had like 3 or 4 guys go to the next level. So had a decent squad. No, we had 5 because we had a guy go to Illinois State, Danny Smith. Did that, and then learned a lot that year. Learned a lot. How to not deal with travel ball parents. That's what I learned.
I gotcha. Yep.
And then did that. I think that was my senior year, I want to say, or no, that was the year after my senior year. And then after that, I ended up moving to Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And then my wife's best friend, her husband, he has a travel organization. He runs the Oakland Reds. I asked him if I could help out, and he let me join up right away. And I've been with him ever since. So,
Gotcha.
And then I want to say, like probably 2 years after I joined him, his name's Mitch Sykes. He runs the Reds. After I joined him, one of the local high school coaches, his son was doing like our throwing program that we run, and he just saw me, kind of coaching. And he's like, "Hey, would you be interested in helping us out?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And so, kind of hopped on with him at the last minute, and haven't really looked back. Matt Fournier, he's the head coach at Livonia Franklin, but great guy, runs a good program. But been with him last 3 years, going on 4, and learned a lot from him too.
Yeah,
really.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. My fault.
No, I just think head coaching a high school program is so much more than just coaching, which that's what I realized. Like, it is. I'm like, can't I just coach? It's like, no, you got to run like the fundraising. You got to talk to parents. You got to run all the senior stuff, everything, dude. Is like, I'm like, navigate buses, meals. Like, I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, all right, I'm good being the assistant coach.
Yeah.
And
I was actually going to ask you if you think that you're ready, because I'm glad you brought that up, because that was probably the hardest thing for me to do. Was the administration stuff, like budgeting. Like, I'm pretty good with numbers on like budgets, but like all the little things like keeping receipts and planning buses and, like you just said, everything, it's a lot. So delegating to like I actually said this in a solo podcast I did earlier, was like, that's something I had to learn that I wasn't very good at, is like the delegating that type of stuff to somebody else. I just took it all on, and it's like, damn, if I was smart, I would have gave it to somebody else to like take some stuff off of my plate. So, I mean, do you think that you're ready? If you got a head coaching opportunity, whether at that school or at like an area school, do you think that you'd be ready to take that on?
Yes and no. I think right now, I like where I'm at as far as like, being assistant coach and helping Matt out. I'm with a lot of other really good coaches. Craig Overitis, he's our hitting coach. Jeff Tandries, he's our pitching coach. We have like all the JJ, he's our catching coach. Like all our coaches have played at some level, whether it was Division III or all the way up to the MLB. So it's like,
right.
I got a lot of guys to pick their brains and kind of learn. But as far as like head coach job, it's got to be the right gig, right? It's got to be, if I want to do something, I got to do it 100%, right? And I want to do it the way Coach McGaha does his thing, right? It's like, it is like year around, right? I mean, for him, the biggest thing that I think helped me was like our summer workouts. Being there Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday through Thursday, pretty much, and you do an hour workout, and then you're like an hour and a half on the field. I think that helped me tremendously as far as like just staying out of trouble, getting a routine during the summer, not being caught.
Not being caught all day.
Yeah. But it'd have to be the right situation, and I'd have to run it the way that I want to run it. Do I want to deal with all that administration stuff? No. Do I think I'm ready for it? I think I could be, but it's just a matter if I want to dedicate the time and the effort to it, right? Because it takes way more time than what people see, as far as just you coaching on the field or you coaching on the court or whatever it is. So it's like that would be definitely a family decision to see.
For sure. You have to have her. She's supportive. I mean, I know your wife, and I know she supports you in all the stuff you do. So, and I mean that you have a really good foundation there if that time were to come, for sure.
Yeah. I think running a team, I don't know. I'm still learning a lot, man. I really am. And
I like that you said that you have some stuff to learn kind of before you jump into that. You want to be, when that opportunity comes, you want to be able to do, you, like you said, you want to be able to run that program every way, shape, and form the right way. you want to have the right knowledge and everything. So I can appreciate that for sure. And there's nothing wrong with being an assistant either. I mean, like you said, you're picking brains and have the right people around you while doing it. So
yeah,
very smart.
Yeah. And the other thing is you got to have like the right guys around you, right? I mean, like we have like 5 coaches on the varsity level, that, if I miss a day, somebody else can take over for me. So we got a lot of flexibility, and it's a good situation for me as far as like if I got to miss something for my family, right?
Right.
There's no, there's no hard feelings about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Right. It's not. They don't take it personal.
Yeah, and I still run stuff at the Reds, right? I still got my 12U team helping out with camps and lessons and stuff like that. So I'm still able to do that as well. If I do the head coaching gig, right, I got to not give it up, but I got to stop that if I really want to run that thing the way that it should be ran. Yeah.
Right. Do you think that that's something that I know you said that you think you would be ready for it, but is that something that you want to be at some point in life? I know when things whenever you get to that point, do you think that it's something that you strive for? Like that's something that your ultimate goal might be at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, I mean, definitely run a high school program for sure. I think the ultimate goal would be to go coach at the college level in some form of capacity. But that's tough too, right? You're running practices in the mornings, right? You're not really running you gotta work at night, right? I mean, college coaching is right now it's tailored to the young population, right? There's not a lot of guys out there there's not a lot of schools that'll offer you enough money to quit your day job, right? And then go coach baseball. It's just tough. So you see a lot of the younger coaches that are doing it, right? But they're grinding, man. They're coaching, they're helping coach, right? They're doing lessons, they're doing camps, right? They got a nighttime job, right? It's just it's different.
It's a lot.
It is different. So
for sure.
I think the ultimate goal would be to coach at the college, but for sure, I definitely want to run my own program one of these days. So
for sure. Okay. So then, I mean, when did you decide that coaching is what you wanted to do? So like, I know you started coaching relatively early, right? I know you were helping out while you were still in college, but when did you decide that this gig, as a coach is something that, you decided that you wanted to dive into?
Shoot. I don't really know. I do know whenever, after my freshman year of college, I went back for the summer and, I did the workouts with Coach Magaha and, the summer camp that he does. And, he was paying me to help out with the younger guys in that camp. And I think that kind of jump started. It's like, hey, I know what I'm talking about as far as like running like the first base stations and running drills and stuff and teaching these kids. And I'm like, okay, I thoroughly enjoy this. Like, this is fun.
Yeah.
And then that kind of kickstarted, me getting into travel ball. And then, I think the biggest thing is like when you're coaching, like you have those aha moments with your kids, right? Mm-hmm. Like something just clicks and then it's like, they're like, holy crap. Like, and then they're a completely different player. Right. Whether it's confidence in a swing, confidence pitching, or whatever it is, right? There's those moments where it's like it finally clicked, right?
Right. And so for sure.
I think for me, the biggest thing is like I told you before, like I grew up with a lot of really good coaches who instilled a lot of really good ideals in me. And I think the biggest thing is like I want to instill that in some kids. Like, I mean, the Coach Magaha and his staff, like to their credit, like a lot of guys out of there probably had no business playing baseball, but they formed some baseball players, man. They did a work of art. I think that's kind of what got me to it. It's like, to be honest, like I probably shouldn't have played college baseball, right? But like they taught me how to play the right way, how to compete, as far as physically and mentally. And like, that's the biggest thing is like, if I can help another kid, go live out his dream, play at the next level. And if I can help him in that process, that's huge.
Yeah. So Coach Magaha not only helped you as a player, but now he's helped you, as a coach too. So all that stuff transitioned over.
There's a lot of things I take from his coaching philosophies and how he coaches. But he's unique the way he does things, right? I mean,
right. But I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, especially if you, and I've said this, I think in an episode last season is, one of my podcasts was like, the way that I got coached or even we got coached, can't necessarily coach the kids the same way now, right? You have to kind of transition it over. But, I took a lot of stuff from my coaches, as well, like, football coaches or wrestling or whoever. I've taken a lot of philosophy specifically from wrestling whenever I'm coaching. I just had to word it completely different. I can't be as, way that they spoke to us. So I definitely understand where you're coming from and how that's, you learned everything. You just can't say it the same way.
Right. You gotta, yeah.
Yeah. Make it more PG. You sure that's
Yeah.
PG nowadays? They were making a rated R. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you kind of already told me how you got into coaching, but I mean, and like how it transitioned, how you started, right? Like with some of the people, kind of just being around people is how you got to where you're at now. But as a coach, like I like to ask this question a lot. What do you like about, or let me say love, what do you love about coaching? And what do you dislike about it? Is there anything that you dislike? I know you kind of mentioned the administration stuff and stuff like that, but is there anything about like the true coaching side of things that you dislike, or is it,
I think I don't know how to word this without I don't know. The part that I dislike is the parents who don't understand where their kid stands. I think that's the part I dislike. Well, I mean, you're going to see that wherever you go, but I think that's the part I dislike the most. And I think the other part is like, as far as like establishing a culture, right? I mean, you're probably going to get 65% of the team on that to buy in, right? And that other 35% is like those guys. I dislike those guys, man.
Yeah.
Simply just don't buy in and don't,
They're just there.
Don't buy into the team aspect, right? Because there's a lot of guys that are selfish nowadays, especially in baseball, right? I mean, you got guys that just care about how fast they throw or their PBR stats or whatever they're doing in the summer and stuff like that. And it's like I think as we kind of transitioned out of high school, PBR got bigger, and so people are always like, "Oh, I want to go to these showcases," right?
I'm glad you brought that up. I have a question for you on that for sure.
Yeah, all these money grabs, and so like I think that's plagued the baseball community and the young kids because they see all these guys posting on Twitter like, "Hey, I hit 97 and I just got an offer because I just PBR posted it for me or whatever," even though that's probably their like 18th PBR event they've done since they were freshmen in high school.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the part I dislike most about coaching, especially in baseball, is you got guys that are more tailored to that instead of tailored to, hey, let's go win this baseball game. Right.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. I talked to a football coach and he felt the same way about some of the football stuff, but I'm glad that you brought that up because, even though I'm not a baseball coach and I'm not like in the baseball world, I have Twitter, I have some of those things, and I see, is it perfect pitch or whatever it is, whatever pitch, whatever that other, it's like PBR, but there's another one that's popular too, and I'm like, I feel like that's, I don't know, I'm not involved in it, but I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to ask you if you feel like that's really if that's quote unquote ruining summer ball or ruining like the in-season high school ball, and as a coach, if that's affecting you, because those guys have their off-season individual coaches that they're doing, or they're whatever they're doing, right? Like they might have their individual workouts that they're doing with their coaches. So like, is that affecting you whenever you're trying to coach a kid in season, and it might be something different that they're getting from like that coach that they spent X amount of dollars on this particular area, type of thing. If they have like if they're spending money on a hitting coach or a pitching coach, but then they go to the high school league or high school season, and you might be trying to tweak something different for them, is that harder for you to? Does that make sense? It might be kind of harder to get them that.
I mean, there's like a fine balance, right? So like if I run into a guy who has a hitting coach, right, I'll ask him, some questions of like, okay, what are you guys working on? Why are you working on it? Right? Is it helping whatever this adjustment is? And, depending on what their answer is, right? If it's helping, okay, I'm not going to touch you, right? And if you're producing, right, then I'm not going to touch you, right? But on the other end, right, if you're not producing and you're struggling, like, dude, like I'm gonna help you out, right? And I'm gonna give you some advice. It's whether you take it or not, right? But it's for the betterment of the team, right? If I can get you to get one more base hit during the game or whatever, that's gonna help us out. Yep. But no, I think I do a pretty good job as far as like working with the player, right? Kind of understanding if he does have a coach, like what they're trying to work on, and kind of building off of that. To be honest, like there hasn't been a lot of times where it's like, hey, I'm working on this, or we're making this adjustment, and I'm telling them, okay, don't listen to that guy, listen to us.
Yeah.
Okay? There hasn't been a lot of times like that. I think the biggest thing is like so I forgot who told me this. You could have a beautiful swing, but if your approach at the plate is awful, right, you're not going to get a hit, right? You're not going to compete. I'd rather have a guy who's aggressive early in the count, with an ugly swing than a guy who's got a pretty swing and is not aggressive. Doesn't hunt fastballs, right?
Doesn't know how to find I understand. Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest part is mindset and approach, right? Because to be honest, I didn't have the prettiest swing, but like when I was locked in on my approach and what my game plan was, like that's when I executed, and that's whenever you see success. But like as soon as you deviate from that plan, right, and you're worried about where your hand should be or where your step is going or whatever it is, like you're done, you're toast. Yeah. So I think a lot of it is guys like they struggle, they strike out at a bat, and they immediately think, Coach, what did I do wrong? It's like, well, mechanically, I'm not going to really tell you what you did wrong. I'm going to tell you like, hey, why didn't you swing at this 1-0 fastball or this 2-0 fastball? And then you chase strike 2 in the dirt, and then now you're stuck 2-2, and now you got to hit this guy's best pitch. It's like, it's more of like that, right?
Right. Know when to get short with your swing and
yeah. And so
just make contact versus trying to hit a bomb ski. Yeah.
Right.
I can appreciate that as a guy who's not coaching baseball. I coach like youth baseball and stuff with my kiddos and stuff, but it's always intriguing to know what you're teaching these guys when they go up to the plate, right, or whatever position they're playing, knowing how that mindset should be, right? Runners in scoring position versus runner on first, 1 out, 2 out, like situationally knowing how these guys should be going up to the plate. And obviously, I think that might be a big differentiator. Like obviously, if you have super talent, right, make it to the MLB, right, it's going to be hard to not make it there. But sometimes some of those guys are probably maybe not the most talented dudes, but they know situationally where they need to be at.
Yeah,
what they need to do for their team.
Yeah, and I think those guys, they know their strengths, they know their weaknesses, right? So, and they go up there with a game plan, and those are typically the guys that you say, like, he's not the most talented, but somehow that guy freaking gets it done, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather take those guys than the guys that are chasing 100 exit velo and 95 pull down and
all those analytics stuff. Yeah, I feel that
90 mile per hour ball 4. So
yeah. Well, let me ask you this, man, because this is kind of the part where I like to get to the final few questions, and we kind of dig deep on these questions. That's one of my favorite things when it comes to my coaching. When I was coaching wrestling, is got to dig deep. So I like to have you dig deep, if you would, on some of these questions. So I guess these final few. So how do you build a successful culture? And I mean this on the level of buy-in or mindset.
I think the biggest thing is just having a set of goals. Okay, having a set of what do I want to call it? Oh my God, not rules, but like what am I trying to say? Like, you find a common goal, right? And you try to get everybody to be lined up on that common goal.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the biggest thing is like just getting people to buy into what you're trying to do. And it's like, okay, what are we trying to do? Okay. We are trying like our head coach just scheduled like a really tough schedule for us this upcoming season. So like the biggest thing in the weight room is like getting guys to just show up to the weight room. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, I remember whenever I was working out during, summer, and I'd work out with the fall with baseball. It's like, I'm working out, I'm grinding it out with these guys. Right. and there's some guys that should be there that aren't there, right? Well, when it comes time to
season comes
it's
around,
time to go, right? Like when it's time to actually get the job done, right? Do I trust this guy to get the job done, or is it just gonna, you know what I mean? So it's like it's putting in time with your teammates, and it's like asking yourself, do I trust this guy that's sitting next to me, right? To get the job done or to do his role to the best of his ability. So I think the biggest thing as far as building a culture is getting guys to understand what those values are, right? And holding those guys accountable to those values. Yeah. And that's the tough part, I think, especially at high school, because you get, there's that saying where it's like coach-led teams are not as good as player-led teams, right? So it's like getting your players to hold each other accountable. Because right, I can go up to a kid and be like, hey, you need to be here at this day. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that, right? And it sounds a lot different coming from a guy from your best friend who's like, hey, dude, like get your head out of your ass. Like you need to get to these workouts. You need to get to these to hitting sessions. Like so it's like it's holding each other accountable to that state, and it's like that's the hard part, right? Getting your guys to hold each other accountable. And really buy into it. So
I gotcha. Yeah, I think that I was trying to think that whole time we were speaking. I can't think of the terminology either. What you were trying to say. I don't know why my mind won't work right now. But I said like foundation, but I know it's not that. And then I thought like mantra or like team motto. But I don't even know if that would be the term. I don't think that'd be it. So we'll just keep values. We'll stay with values because values is probably the most accurate term for what.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, I was like had a brain fart. I'm like, what am I trying to say? Like I see it.
Yeah, I agree. So then I guess the second part of that question is, so how do you build a successful program on like level of wins and like longevity? And then how do you sustain that?
Oh, that's tough. Well, with the program that I'm in, I mean, I joined up, and the first year I was with them, it was like their best year in program history. I think they like rattled off like 28 wins, like 6 losses, made it to the regional. I want to say we lost, or was it sectional? We lost 1-0 against the number 1 team in the state. But I think to keep that going, it's just like understanding like, hey, like just because we didn't get it here, right, doesn't mean that our goal is not the same, right? Make it to states, go win a state championship, right?
Right.
The hard part is getting the young guys bought in, right? Because you think about it, as a senior, dude, this is your last run, right? You're doing everything you can, right? You're working out as much as you can, right? You're going to as many workouts or practices, everything you can, right? And I think a lot of it is some of those young guys, those young talented guys, don't understand is like that, like they're 2 years, 1 year away from that moment, and they're gonna realize like, hey, like they're gonna look back and be like, I probably should have gone to more. I probably could have given it more, right?
Yep.
I think the biggest part is getting them to realize that, and then getting them to just understand like every day is an opportunity to get better at something, right?
Right.
Like, because like at the end of the day, everybody says that their goal is to go play at the next level, but a lot of the guys, like their habits do not tell me that, right? Their daily habits do not show that I want to go.
They want that.
Yeah. So I think it's getting guys to understand that, dude, this takes a lot of freaking work, right? And it takes 9 guys. It takes the whole roster, right?
Yep.
So the biggest thing is just holding guys accountable to the values that the team has, right? The values and the goals, right? And if you can do that, right, and if guys can buy in, then you're gonna have a team out there that's gonna compete, right?
Yep.
So I think, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, getting the young guys, because if you can get those young guys to buy in early, then it's much easier every year for you to be competitive as a team, because then they're putting in the same amount of effort and work as those seniors are, or whoever's on your roster. If everybody top to bottom is putting in the same work, that competitive and, working as a team and all that stuff is building a culture, but also hopefully some wins. And then, hopefully that builds into, if those guys who are sophomores are putting in the same amount of work, they don't want to let that work go to waste next year. So then they're going to hopefully build that, the sophomores or the freshmen next year, just continue to build that, brick by brick. They're building that foundation for, the future by them putting in the work now so that they can help with next year. And, it's building like, oh, I'm a freshman. I see what these sophomores are doing. So that's kind of like instilled in them like, all right, as a sophomore, this is what I have to do. This is kind of like the expectation or standard that they see. So yeah, I think I agree, or I see what you're saying for sure.
Yeah.
So do you have any tips or advice for new or struggling coaches? So like I know you're an assistant, so I know you may not have seen everything on like the high school level of head coaching, but what do you think are some tips or advice that you have for coaches either struggling or trying to get into coaching?
I would say for the struggling young coaches, I would say find a mentor, reach out to your local high school, find a program that is established, right? And reach out to the coach and say, whether you're looking for a job or not, like just say, hey, where do you guys need help at? And whatever they say, do the best of your ability to say, okay, I can help with that. And, go try and knock that out. But I think the biggest thing is like, don't be afraid to ask for help. I think for me, when I was young and starting out, like I just didn't ask questions, didn't reach out to coaches, I think it was probably a little too stubborn, right? Thinking that I knew more than I did. But I think, just reaching out to guys and just asking questions. Cause a lot of coaches, dude, they coach because they love it, right? They're not going to dismiss you cause you're, they're going to help you out. I mean,
especially if you're part of their program, like they want the best coaches around. So, I mean, it'd be kind of bad if you're helping if you're part of that program, why would they not try to help you be the best coach to help them out,
Right. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is just like find somebody that you admire, right? Doesn't even have to be your sport coach, right? Like a guy that I love is Nick Saban, because that guy is freaking like he's the epitome of freaking football coaches or any kind of coach, right? But his biggest thing is like, I forgot how he said it, but his biggest motivator was the bench, right? If you got a guy that's not willing to do what he's supposed to do, then he's going to find himself on the bench. He's going to learn, right? And he's going to make those adjustments to find himself on the field, right? So I think that's the biggest thing is, and the other, I want to say the other thing with establishing longevity in programs is, making sure that you have the depth, right? Because if this guy's not doing it, okay, if he's not doing it the way you need it, it needs to be done. We have X, Y, and Z ready to go that we can give a shot to go. And that, I think that builds confidence or that builds competitiveness, right? That elevates you guys. And yeah, but
I agree. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say one thing real quick, and then I'll ask you the last question. So I remember earlier you said the hardest thing for you to do sometimes is like with parents to like know where their kids sit. I think it's interesting because like as a wrestling coach, you don't really have to worry about that because kids wrestle off. So like no matter how much they give in fundraising, no matter how much they do, like your kid has to win that spot. And that's the one thing I love about wrestling when it comes to dealing with it. It's because like you can be the number one donor. And like that doesn't do anything for us outside of like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it gives us everything we need financially. But if your kid loses to this kid, who am I to say that your kid gets to go to a tournament? Like that's what wrestle-offs are for, right? Versus like baseball or all these things, it's all like coaches. I think this kid will put us in the best spot to win the game or, whatever it is. So like that's the one thing I say I give you props for is because you're in a cut sport, you're in a coach opinion sport, and it's like that's one thing I give you props for because you're going to have parents all up on you saying, my kid should be starting when like, so that's hard for you, I'm sure, as a coach sometimes to like have to combat sometimes, especially if it is close. Like if it's truly like, yeah, this guy's strengths are here versus here, and this kid's are here versus here. Like it's really close type of thing. Versus wrestling for me, it's like they wrestled 4 times and this kid won 3 out of 4. Like what am I gonna do? Like there's nothing I can argue with.
Yeah. Usually if it's close, right, for baseball wise, then it just becomes, okay, what's this kid's character versus that kid's character, right? What's this kid's integrity versus that kid's integrity, right? If this guy shows up to workouts early or whatever and shows up to everything every day, and this guy kind of moseys along during practice, right, then it's like, even if they are equally talented, it's like, okay, I'm going to take the guy that's here every single day, putting in the work, over the guy that's just as talented but is kind of lazy or is just a terrible teammate, right? I mean, if you got a bad attitude and you're a bad teammate, that's an easy decision on a coach's part, right? Very rarely do you run into the situation where you got 2 guys who are equally talented, have great character, both are working their butts off, right? I've never ran into that situation before. Hopefully I do one day, right? Because then we're in a really good spot as far as like our program. But usually there's something that you can distinguish as far as work ethic, and stuff like that. So
okay. So for the final question, Coach Jaquez, do you go by Coach Ty or Coach Jaquez?
Coach Ty.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So Coach Ty, for the final question here, probably the deepest question that we have, and it's the name of the podcast is, why do you coach? What is your why?
I think biggest reason why I coach is because I was a guy who wasn't uberly talented, who was taught how to play baseball the right way, who's taught how to, handle adversity, right? Mm-hmm. And I just want to give kids who are in my similar position that same opportunity, right? I mean, the biggest thing is like, dude, I didn't grow up doing baseball lessons, right? All I had was the practices that I had with Coach Martin, Coach Baker, Coach Bayless, Coach McGaha, like all my summer coaches. Like I never did private training for baseball. So it's like, I want to give those kids who, may not have the financial means to do those, give them the best opportunity to, hey, I can go play the next level. I can, I'm going to get my education paid for and not walk out with a freaking loan to pay for and hanging over my head for the next 10 years. So
right.
I think that's
I love that, man. I love that. Actually, you want to get back to similar to what you did. I was the same way. I never had any private lessons in any sport. I don't care. You can talk about any sport. Like obviously I did baseball for a long time, but
your mom was single mom, right?
Yeah. Single mom. Yeah. Single mom. I mean, paycheck to paycheck on teacher salary, I mean, same thing as, your mom was teacher salary too. So, it didn't really get better until the last few years, but, single mom, teacher salary, same thing. I used to, for me to get better at my sport, baseball, I used to keep a tennis ball in the house with a glove and I throw it against my wall and like practice picking and ground ball, like forehands, backhand, stuff like that. And so that's what I did. So, I mean, I love that you're out there trying to be that person no matter what they are financially, or I guess in your similarity of what you grew up with, to get them into a position, the best position possible for sure that they, they may not have from another coach or, if you weren't their coach, I should say. So, hell yeah, man. That was cool. I like that. That got me hyped up. I'm like, hell yeah, right there. Hell yeah, right there, boy. But yeah, man, that's it. That's all I have for you, man.
That was fun, dude. That was fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you jumping on, man. It was really fun. First baseball coach we've had on here, so it's really cool to get your mindset on baseball and how you handle your business up there. And I really appreciate you jumping on. So if you guys are still listening to this podcast at this point, make sure you guys like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you guys are on Spotify or PocketCasts, make sure you guys leave a review. Let us know how we did. Whatever you say it with your chest. Ty, I want to say thank you for jumping on. I appreciate all your knowledge and everything and all those gems you gave us. And I hope we can get you back on one of these days.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. This was fun. This was very
fun. Of course, man. Well, with that being said, guys, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.